Professor Sam Vaknin's 20 Mechanisms of Narcissistic Relating. Let me start by saying this clearly. You did not collapse because you were weak. You collapsed because you walked into a psychological system no nervous system can survive. You walked into what Sam Vaknin calls the shared fantasy. And what input shows is a full neurological, emotional, and symbolic takeover of your internal world. So today I'm going to explain everything you need to know in one place. No jargon, no myths, no nonsense, just clarity. The shared fantasy, the world you didn't know you entered. The relationship never happened out here. It happened in their mind. A narcissistic relationship is not two people relating. It is a fantasy world the narcissist lives inside, a world they pull you into so they can use you to stabilize their internal chaos. You thought you were falling in love. What was actually happening was psychological entrainment. Your mind sinking to theirs, your rhythm matching theirs, your emotional energy being absorbed into a world where you were never the main character. You were the regulator, the snapshot, why you were never actually seen. You were not loved. You were idealized, which means you were flattened into a picture, a perfect internal image the narcissist needed to feel whole. This is why you feel erased now. You were erased from day one. You were rendered an idealized object. Idealization, the mothering illusion. Idealization feels like chemistry, destiny, intensity, passion. It's not. It's the narcissist projecting onto you the mother they wished they had. This isn't romance, it's a psychological substitution. You were not being courted, you were being absorbed. Cold empathy, why they seemed so tuned in. People think narcissists have no empathy. It's the opposite. They have cold empathy, the ability to read your emotions without caring about them. It's scanning, it's data, it's used to control the fantasy, not to connect with you. This is how they knew what to say. This is how they knew how to bond with you so quickly. This is how they disarmed you without effort. They weren't loving you, they were calibrating you. Entrainment, the trance, your body matched theirs, your speech matched theirs, your nervous system matched theirs. Why nothing ever made sense? They didn't lie to manipulate. They lied because their internal world is made of holes. Confabulation fills the gaps so their false self doesn't collapse. You were arguing with a moving target. Nothing fit because nothing could fit. They were not protecting the relationship. They were protecting their psychological survival. Gaslighting by equivocation, the mind twist. They didn't deny your reality. They distorted the frame around it. Fragmented truth, fragmented memory, fragmented affect. You weren't going crazy. You were being pulled into their unstable reality. Projective identification. Why you became the problem. All the feelings they cannot bear, shame, fear, inadequacy, emptiness, gets put into you. Not metaphorically, psychologically. This is why you felt suddenly ashamed without reason, suddenly insecure, suddenly worthless. You weren't absorbing their emotions, you were housing them, splitting, perfect or worthless. 1 minute you were everything, the next moment you were nothing. This is not personal, it's structural. The narcissist cannot hold complexity. Everything must be all good or all bad. You were never being evaluated. You were being categorized. Supply, what you really were. Supply is not attention or admiration. Supply is regulation. Your presence regulated their instability. Your confusion regulated their power. Your affection regulated their emptiness. Your panic regulated their control. You were not loved, you were used as a stabilizing mechanism. And that's why discard feels like death. Devaluation, the beginning of collapse. They don't devalue you because you've done something wrong. They devalue you because the internal fantasy is breaking. You're becoming too real, too human, too present. And reality threatens the fantasy's structural integrity. Self state switching, why you felt you were with several people. There is no single narcissist, they are multiple fractured self states: seductive, grandiose, contemptuous, infantile, punitive, paranoid. You were relating to a shifting cast of internal parts, each one activated by shame or fear. This is why nothing stayed consistent. This is why every argument felt like a different person. Avoidance of the bad object, their deepest truth. What you experience as avoidance, withdrawal, silent treatment, detachment, stonewalling is not punishment. It is the narcissist fleeing their internal bad mother, the early maternal wound they cannot face, and they turn you into that bad object to escape the dissolution they live with. Your disappearance was never personal, it was primitive. Object constancy collapse. Why you disappeared in their mind. Healthy people can hold someone in mind even when upset. Narcissists cannot. When you stop regulating them, you stopped existing. This is not cruelty, it is absence. Internal monologue dominance. Why they never listened. They were not talking to you, they were talking at you while listening to the voices inside their head: the grandiose self, the shame driven self, the punitive self, the idealized mother, the rejecting mother, the frightened child. You were speaking to a room of ghosts. Fantasy as a regulatory system, the real engine. Fantasy is not imagination. Fantasy is how the narcissist stays alive. Relationship is too dangerous. Attachment is too annihilating. Presence is too exposing. Fantasy is the only world in which they feel safe, powerful, and coherent. Substitutability, the most painful truth. You were not chosen, you were slotted in. Anyone who fits the fantasy script can replace you, because what is loved is not you, but the role you played in their internal world. This one truth explains the speed of replacement. It is not a reflection of your worth, it is a reflection of their absence. The great collapse, the end for both of you. When the fantasy breaks, the narcissist fragments, the survivor implodes. You fall into ASR1, ASR2, ASR3, reflexive inversion, collapse induced psychotic regression, inverse mirrored, reflexive apathy, reflexive mirrored psychic inversion. Because your nervous system loses its organizing principle. They break into self state fragments. You break into emotional annihilation. The wound is shared, the outcomes differ. Why you still long for them? Because you're not longing for them. You are longing for the self you were in idealization, the gaze that made you feel real, the attachment you never received, the good object that collapsed, the fantasy where your wounds were temporarily soothed, the internal mother substitute you thought you found, the version of yourself that felt alive. You are not addicted to a person, you are addicted to the reflection of your unmet need. This is why leaving feels like death. This is why you cannot just move on. This is why recovery takes years. Not because you're broken, but because the fantasy hijacked the deepest layer of your nervous system. The final truth: You collapse because the relationship reactivated the wound you were never allowed to heal. They collapse because they never formed the structure to begin with. This is not a story of evil and victimhood. This is the story of two people caught in the same wound from opposite ends. And you can heal, but not by demonizing them, not by excusing them either, but by understanding you were never seeing them. You were seeing the internal world they trapped you inside. Knowledge is the exit. Understanding is the cure. Separation begins with truth. And the truth begins here. Peace out. Loads of love.